Hello everybody, this is part 4 of my response to the Muslim Lantern and Subboor Ahmad on their video on evolution. I will start off by addressing the article they have listed at the bottom of the slide. This is the article here. It discusses junk DNA. This is the colloquial term for DNA that does not code for a protein. It was initially thought that this junk DNA had no apparent function. However, the ENCODE project showed that a lot of this DNA served some purpose. I will link a video by the Creation Myths channel that I recommend the viewer to watch. The slide here says millions of random changes, knowing one change can be fatable. You won't be surprised to find out that the article doesn't say anything like this at all. In fact, most random changes have no consequences. There is then a long discussion about similarities in the DNA and how different figures are obtained. I will spare you having to listen to their misunderstandings, but I have looked at all 4 articles that he has listed, including the one from the Institute of Creation Research. I should explain that there is no universally defined way of comparing genetic similarity. For example, look at this piece of text. A sentence has been repeated. The repeated sentence has 16 words, so should this count as 1 error or 16 errors? Also, in this example, we can see how one minor change in the code can have a totally different meaning. Different methods show different results, but when the same method is applied to different species, then the results are consistent. All methods show chimpanzees and bonobos as our closest living species.
And what we have to realize about whenever it comes to any comparison between the human genome and the chimpanzee genome, the scientist who's studying the human genome and the chimpanzee genome, and they're doing the studies, take the names of each one of these scientists who are putting together these papers and interview them before, let's just say hypothetically, before they did the experiments, and ask them, do you believe in human chimp ancestry? Every single one of them will say yes. So the thing is, it's a foregone conclusion.
It's not a foregone conclusion. The data is not fixed to show human-chimp common ancestry. The experiments demonstrate similarity. The theory of human-chimp common ancestry explains the similarity. This comes once the results are achieved, not as a prerequisite. Not all of the scientists believe in human-chimp ancestry. This is the article that you showed on your slide from the Institute of Creation Research. It is written by Jeffrey Tompkins. He's a creationist, so wouldn't believe in human-chimp common ancestry.
Yeah, and an additional point that I want everybody to just keep in mind is that before Darwin, there was Carl Linnaeus. Carl Linnaeus was a Swedish scientist who put together taxonomy the way that we have it in terms of all these different organisms being put together in these categories. And he put humans and chimpanzees together because of their similarities in anatomy. But he didn't believe they had a common ancestor.
Carl Linnaeus was a Swedish taxonomist. He grouped together species based on shared characteristics. This was in the 18th century before Darwin published his work on evolution. Linnaeus didn't know how species arose, so couldn't believe in common ancestry, but he grouped together humans with other primates in the group Anthropomorpha based on their similarities. He asked people to come up with a generic difference between man and simian that follows from the principles of natural history, as he knows of none. He understood that this classification would upset theologians, and in some way explains why he placed humans separately in the genus Homo.
So it's pretty bloody obvious that things are similar, but that doesn't mean they have a common ancestor.
This is a demonstration of a very naive understanding by Subboor. The classification system looks at detailed comparisons and similarities and not just a superficial appearance. For example, all dog breeds are the same species, Canis lupus familiaris, despite the differences in their appearance. But chimpanzees and bonobos are different species, despite their similar appearance here. However, both are in the genus Pan.
And the other thing to keep in mind, and this is something that atheists, they pull out as if it's some sort of miracle. They say, well, if humans and chimpanzees are not related, why are their genomes similar? And the answer to that is, why wouldn't their genomes be similar? Because they are anatomically similar. We would expect their
Absolutely.
genomes to be similar.
Absolutely.
This is another embarrassing lack of understanding of the scientific method. Human-chimp similarity from genetics and from anatomy is a fact. It is objectively verifiable. Common ancestry is the theory that explains that fact. It is the only theory. There is no other explanation for human-chimpanzee similarity than human-chimp common ancestry. What alternative explanations are there? Does anyone really believe in a 90-foot tall human, taller than a dinosaur? Where is the evidence for that?
This is very important. What they try to take away is the acceptance in the heart of the believer. Before all of this nonsense of evolution, if we go to the 1800s and we go to a layman, we say to him, look at the trees, look at the ants, look at these animals, how their evidence is for God. None of them would object. None of them they would say, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, all of these things are evidence. There has to be a maker that guided them to do that.
Oh, so that's why you're so upset. It's not that you have found problems with evolution, because I have been debunking everything you said. You're upset because evolution explains parts of the natural world that you would rather attribute to your theology.
The theory of evolution is not science. You cannot falsify the theory of evolution. I've demonstrated to you, whenever there's something that comes up that goes against whatever they believe, they change it. They change the goalpost. They come up with a new name, a made-up name, to try to explain whatever happened. Which means that there is nothing in that theory that is falsifiable to begin with. And this is a huge rational problem. That makes it's not science to begin with.
There are many blatantly wrong things in this statement to unpack. Evolution is science as it follows the scientific method. It involves observation, formulating hypotheses, testing the hypotheses, and making testable predictions. There is no moving of the goalposts, as he says, when new data emerges. When that happens, there is the attempt to incorporate that with already known data. If it's impossible, then the theory is discarded. Evolution predicted Tiktaalik, a transition fossil, and it was found in the exact geological layer that for its age was predicted by evolution. Evolution is based on the principles of variation, heritability, and selection. Therefore, the following would falsify this theory. If it could be shown that organisms with identical DNA have different genetic traits, if it could be shown that mutations do not occur, if it could be shown that when mutations do occur, they are not passed down through the generations, if it could be shown that although mutations are passed down, no mutation could produce the sort of phenotypic changes that drive natural selection, if it could be shown that selection or environmental pressures do not favour the reproductive success of better adapted individuals, if it could be shown that even though selection or environmental pressures favour the reproductive success of better adapted individuals at any one time are not shown to change into other species. To summarise why evolution is a science, it goes through rigorous peer review, it is driven by evidence, experiments can test hypotheses, verify results, and the results can be replicated. The experiments are unbiased and follow the data. It can be revised and modified in the face of new data, which can incorporate the previously known data. The alternative put forward by creationists, which is intelligent design creationism, is not science. It is a pseudoscience. It starts with a conclusion of divine intervention. It makes grandiose claims, cherry-picks evidence. None of it is testable. None of it makes any predictions. It is dogmatic and unyielding in the face of new evidence.
They rely on the presuppositions of naturalism. Everything has to be explained through natural processes. They don't accept that there could be anything unnatural, metaphysical, that explains the phenomena that happens.
Here I have to distinguish between methodological naturalism, which is the claim that only natural mechanisms can be incorporated into science, versus philosophical naturalism, which claims that only natural causes exist. The reason why under methodological naturalism the supernatural is excluded is because there are no reliable testable methods for the supernatural. Until there are reliable and testable methods for the supernatural, They cannot be included into methodological naturalism and therefore cannot be a part of science.
Evolution in its crux, in its understanding, it's not a scientific theory. Why? Because it's pseudoscience. It is not something that you can see, you cannot observe. I cannot observe species changing from one another. It cannot happen.
Here he demonstrates his ignorance, as he has clearly not heard of the Lenski long-term evolution experiment or the case of the Italian wall lizard. In both cases, evolution has been observed within years.
Now, another thing is the idea of randomness. The idea of randomness itself, randomness doesn't exist.
Randomness does exist in science. Randomness is defined as that which cannot be confidently predicted. We can't predict exactly how much DNA is altered by radiation, but we can predict that it is.
Abiogenesis, it is an assumption they cannot explain. Where is the start of, I didn't even go into that, I can go into details, I don't want to, right? Where is the start of all of that?
This is an entirely separate topic which was not discussed in their video. For anybody who wants to learn about abiogenesis, please watch the Professor Dave Explains channel, where he explains abiogenesis in his responses to James Tour.
Let's go now to the last thing, inshallah. Okay, the last thing I want to say is how those people explain what they say. You've got someone like Richard Dawkins who would try to explain abiogenesis by aliens.
This is an often repeated false claim that I thoroughly debunked in my video called Subboor Ahmad is Clueless About Panspermia. Please watch that. It is a creationist quote mine which is debunked here and also on Richard Dawkins' own Twitter page.
I want to just highlight the psyche of these individuals, right? Why do I want to highlight the psyche of these individuals? Some people will come and say, why, if you've got all of this evidence, why don't you win the Nobel Prize, man? Just go and demonstrate all of this and win the Nobel Prize. The reason is those people already believe it and they don't want to believe in anything else. Evolution to them equals no creation. And because evolution to them equals no creation, they will fight with everything to try to prove their nonsense.
Even by the standards of this video to which I'm reacting, this comment is pure horse manure. There is no conspiracy to promote evolution because it attacks religion. If you want to attack evolution, then provide accurate science. This is my fourth video debunking all the nonsense that you have said, because nearly all you have said is wrong. Please read this article on the RationalWiki page.
They will accept things like intelligent matter. This article that I put by Science, they try to attribute intelligence, choice to matter. They would attribute intelligence and choice to matter, but they would not attribute it to the creator of matter.
This is the article to which he is referring in his slide. It refers to artificial intelligence. Regardless of that, we know intelligence is an emergent property of a functioning brain. You have not shown any evidence for a creator of matter, let alone why we should infer intelligence to that creator.
And now the last thing I want to show is this documentary, The Expelled, right?
He then moves on to the film Expelled, No Intelligence Allowed. This is a new low point in his video. For anybody who is not aware of this film, it is a propaganda film, responses to which have been largely negative. It's been described as a political rant and a science-free attack on Darwin and a conspiracy theory rant. Please read the RationalWiki page on this film, which I have linked in the description. To summarize, only a total idiot would use this film in the hope of improving their argument. There then follows a general discussion between the two.
And ultimately, what we need to realize is that Shaitan is using certain things to try and take people away from Allah. And one of the things I truly believe, Shaitan's been using over the last 150 years is Darwinism.
And on that deranged, unscientific opinion, I will end my analysis of this video and of the series of 4 videos responding to their evolution video. I hope you have found my videos to be informative. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you.